The story begins with a bus in total chaos, filled with unconscious passengers and knives and bullets scattered across the floor, along with various bloodstains. The first to wake up is Lynn, who has a gun in his hands, despite being handcuffed. He looks very startled by the situation and peeks out the window, seeing that the bus is in the middle of the desert and far from anything resembling a road. The only good news for him is that the keys to the handcuffs are within reach, so he frees his hands and starts shaking the driver, who shows no signs of life. Lynn begins pressing several buttons on the panel until the television turns off, and it's at this moment that he sees his own image in the rearview mirror. His expression is one of even greater shock, and he starts touching his cheek as if he doesn't recognize that face. Flashes from the past emerge in his mind, showing police inside the bus and someone being shot, but he can't organize these memories coherently. Another passenger begins to wake up with groans of pain, and Lynn runs to him, determined to get an explanation. He gives up when he sees that the poor man is even more lost than he is, and as the others wake up, it becomes evident that none of them know how they ended up there. A woman starts screaming as soon as she sees a body fallen by the bus door, realizing that he is not asleep. This spreads panic among the passengers, and someone opens the door, causing the body to tumble out. Everyone rushes out of the bus screaming, and some keep running until something even stranger happens. One of the groups makes a turn, passing behind the sand elevations and out of Lynn's line of sight, when suddenly he hears screams of horror and sees a huge cloud of dust coming out of the same place, while some try to run away from it. Those who were left behind only understand the reason when several heads are simply ripped off by the passing cloud. That is not ordinary dust, and contact with it is obviously fatal for humans. Everyone tries to rush back inside the bus, but the cloud engulfs most of them, including the woman who had screamed. Besides Lynn, only 4 people survive. Bolin, who is the second to wake up, Chen, who takes the wheel, a bald man named Zhao, and a dwarf named Jun. The dust cloud spreads across the horizon as Chen steps on the accelerator frantically, and we see that nearby, some kind of creature is grunting and growling in the shadows. Zhao tries to use his cell phone but doesn't know the password, and Jun confesses that he can't even remember his own name. Then we see a young police officer named Fang, who is rummaging through a destroyed van while the radio reports about 3 robbers who fled after robbing a bank. Finding a cell phone, she listens to a recording in which a woman begs not to harm her daughter. Back on the bus, we see that all 5 survivors have lost their memory and don't even know who they are. Still, when a suitcase full of money appears, Zhao tries to convince the others that it's his. No one believes him, and Chen decides to take a look at the rest of the luggage, finding a bit of water. This sparks a crazy fight between him, Jun, and Zhao, tossing the bottle back and forth until it lands with Bolin. He is about to drink when he hears a gunshot, because Zhao found the gun and fired it into the air, making it clear that nobody is going to drink that water except him. This all changes when a child's voice begins to call for her father, and they discover a little girl on the bus, letting her drink everything. Upon realizing that she doesn't remember which of them is her father, the girl starts crying until Jun manages to make her laugh with a monkey mask. Then we find out that the girl's name is Lele, and she was kidnapped at 7 in the morning. Fang is with her mother, listening to the message from the kidnappers with instructions on how to pay the ransom. In the desert, the situation worsens when Jun finds something he threw out the window hours earlier, indicating that the group is going in circles. Zhao nearly chokes Chen, and Lin takes advantage of the confusion to disarm him, but ends up giving the revolver back. They decide to guide themselves by the shape of the dunes and unload the bus as much as possible, since the gasoline won't last long either. It's already nighttime when they pass a large puddle of water and rush to quench their thirst, filling up some bottles while Jun takes care of the girl. The two decide to go out just when the others have just heard a sinister sound nearby. Suddenly, Jun is attacked by something fast and huge that nobody can see clearly. Lele starts crying again, and the others carry her back to the bus while Jun appears at the window, calling for help. They are scared to open the door, but Lele has become very attached to the dwarf and begs someone to help him. They go out to look for him, and Bolin cowers by the door the whole time. Then Jun grabs his leg and warns the others that he found him hiding under the vehicle. However, when they start coming back, a creature that looks like a demon suddenly appears and charges at Lin, trying to bite him. Zhao shoots the thing, which ends up fleeing, and everyone returns to the bus. Even injured, June doesn't abandon his Buddhist faith and teaches Lele that evils come in the form of wind, water, and fire. This means that only one remains, since the group has already faced the deadly dust and the lake demon. With less optimism, Chen informs the others that fuel has run out completely, and Lin says that it's best to spend the night inside, taking turns to keep watch. Lele is wide awake and also doesn't want to drink, saying she prefers to save water in case June gets thirsty. Still haunted by flashes of memory, Lin asks the girl to try to remember anything, but she says she can't. Without any of them noticing, a glowing circle appears in the middle of the desert, as if it were some kind of vortex, and then disappears without a trace. The next day, Lele's mother goes to the agreed location to deliver the money to the kidnapper, but no one shows up. The police are hiding nearby and begin to overhear the conversation when someone calls, informing that the deal is off for now. In the desert, the survivors comment that the night was too short, as the sun rose after just 3 hours. Lele wanders away from them unnoticed and goes to see what the object fallen in the sand is, discovering a danger sign. When the others notice her absence and start calling for her, Lin suddenly asks for silence and everyone hears the sound of that lethal wind. Worried about the girl, Zhao runs to her and steps on a kind of landmine. Everyone is shocked by the explosion, but Zhao survives despite his injuries. The problem now is that Lele is standing on top of another mine and the deadly dust cloud is already approaching. With as much calm as possible given the situation, Lin inserts the blade of a knife between the mine and the sole of Lele's shoe, allowing her to lift her foot. Now the fog is very close, and June takes the girl to the bus while Lin holds the knife, unsure of what to do. When he finally gathers the courage to let go of the knife, nothing happens to the mine, but the cloud is coming even faster. It doesn't take long for her to cross the bus, and Lele starts crying again upon seeing that Lin isn't with them. However, when they go out to check, he rolls out of the cargo compartment, where he had hidden just in time. After the scare, Zhao slowly recovers, and the others begin to lose hope again. Then Lin says that there is something on the other side of the dune, and there might be someone who can help. Fang is still with Lele's mother, who is named Bai. She explains that she became a widow when her daughter was still a baby, but she never had the courage to tell her. So she invented a story that her father was a sailor who would one day return to celebrate her birthday. This is what upset the girl yesterday, as she turned 8 and, once again, the visit didn't come. Lele ran away from home to find her father and ended up being kidnapped. While Bai tells this to Fang, one of the police officers informs that he has obtained information through the wiretap. At the same time, Lele and her new friends are crossing the desert towards what seems to be the entrance of a bunker. Even Zhao joins, being carried by the others, passing skeletons along the way. Arriving there, Lele overcomes her fear of the dark, and everyone moves forward into the tunnel, finding a British flag and several dusty weapons. Only with a cell phone flashlight, they investigate a hole in the wall, but then Lin calls them over to see what he has found. It's a stockpile of canned food, and everyone gets excited about the chance to satiate their hunger, but the joy is short-lived. Chen spits out the food right after, and Bolin checks the date on the outside of the can, saying it's from 1915. Lin isn't as surprised as the others, as he had already noticed that the guns and uniforms were all very old models, and that nothing there seems to be from China. Bolin gets scared upon hearing that they might be in another country, and thinks that the troops could return at any moment, but the others prefer to take shelter in the bunker anyway. A little later, Chen celebrates finding a gas can and goes to fill the tank along with Lin and Bolin. Zhao and June stay with the girl inside the bunker, and the three get startled when they hear a noise.
At the same time, Lin discovers that the bus is stuck and starts digging around the tires until the spade hits something metallic. This is how he finds an old military helmet, along with a bundle full of memorabilia and a diary. Being the only one who knows other languages, Bolin starts translating the soldier's account, haunting the other two with what he reads. The soldier says that his platoon was on the way to a battle when they were hit by a very thick fog. After the fog cleared, they found themselves in an unknown desert and only recovered their memories nearly a month later. The soldier ends that part by saying that he experienced inexplicable events because that desert is not on planet Earth. Meanwhile, Lele is clutching Zhao and June, for the noise they had heard earlier was indeed one of those monsters. The three try to stay quiet until the creature leaves, but June realizes that this won't happen and decides to face it. The monster jumps at him right then, and June starts shooting, managing to scare it off. Still reading the soldier's diary, Bolin says that the platoon discovered a way back home, explaining that there is a temporary vortex that opens in the desert. The three barely have time to digest all this before the monster comes out of the bunker already shrieking at them. Luckily, the bus is already unstuck, and they manage to escape, but a thud from above warns that they have been reached. To make matters worse, that monster is no longer alone, and now there is a whole pack surrounding the bus. One of them manages to get in, but decides to leave without eating any of them, abruptly changing focus. With a sigh of relief, Bolin asks Chen to turn the bus around and is shocked when he hears him say that he won't do it. Then he sees that the portal is open right at that moment, swirling a little above the ground and not far from them. As the huge pack of monsters converges towards the bunker entrance, Lin and Bolin become furious with Chen's coldness as they refuse to accept the idea of leaving the other three behind. He says that according to the soldier's diary, the portal would close at any moment, and no one knows when it will open again. Besides, those monsters can only have gone to the bunker, which means that the others might already be dead by now. The speech doesn't convince them, and the two prefer to walk back than spend another minute there with him. Before getting off, Bolin still reminds Chen of how affectionate Lele is and how she calls all of them daddy, even without knowing who her real father is. June and Zhao's attitude inside the bunker is the complete opposite of the driver's selfishness, as they both risk their lives to protect the girl at all costs. The creatures have already invaded the bunker, and as much weapons and ammunition as Zhao now has at his disposal, he is still just a shooter against a pack of alien beings that keep attacking him. Seeing that there is no way out, he tearfully bids farewell to the girl and pulls the pin from a grenade. Lin and Bolin hear the explosion from afar and become desperate, fearing the worst. On top of that, some of the monsters have escaped unharmed and are now even fiercer than before, enraged by the attack. Lele also can't hold back her tears, and the sound alerts the creatures immediately, forcing June to get her out of there quickly. Then we flash back a bit to the moment when June boards the bus with a red box that he leaves under the seat. We see that the woman who screamed is the conductor, and her conversation with June is the same one that was overheard by the police officer who was with Fang. Moreover, Chen is on the phone saying that the deal is off for now. When he hangs up, Lele asks how much longer until they reach her father's house, and he says they're almost there. Then he calls his girlfriend, informing her that he is about to get very rich, and promises to lavish luxury on the baby on the way. On the other end of the line, the girl responds sharply and tells him that she's already terminated the pregnancy. Chen is shocked by the news, but at that moment a more urgent problem arises for him, as the police are blocking the road. It's then that Detective Lin boards the bus and begins checking the identification of each of the passengers. He asks to see what's inside the red box, and June shows the contents, which seem to be nothing special. However, when he pushes the box under the seat, Lin notices that there is blood underneath it, and realizes something strange is happening with one of the passengers, who is sitting next to Zhao. As soon as he draws his gun, Bolin points his own revolver at him, and another police officer does the same to Bolin. Then Zhao pulls the gun from the passenger next to him and also points it at the detective. Bolin kicks the other officers off the bus, shooting a random passenger just to show that he means business. The guards obey, taking the injured passenger outside as well, while Zhao puts the handcuffs on Lin and Bolin forces the driver to keep going. Back in the desert, we see June and Lele still running through the dunes when the first monster catches up with them. It knocks June down, and Lele starts crying again. But Lin is already close enough to shoot the creatures. Bolin is also armed, but he does not show any of the courage that we just saw he had in the past. With much difficulty, he also starts shooting, and the group manages to regroup. But June is injured, and Lele has to help him walk. The ammunition runs out when there are still 3 beasts unharmed and in full attack. Bolin and Lin prepare for a fight with very little chance, but fortunately, it isn't necessary to resort to that. One of the monsters is suddenly run over by the bus, as Chen felt guilty and decided to return. He shoots at the remaining duo of monsters and shouts for everyone to get in the bus, but no one can carry June in time, and he is left behind. Lele panics when she sees him being devoured and almost jumps out the window to save him, but Bolin stops her. The girl becomes so agitated that he even handcuffs her arm to make sure she doesn't run away. In the flashback, we see that the police are still chasing the robbers, who are Zhao, Bolin, and the guy who was probably injured during the bank robbery. We see that Bolin's aim is much better when he is on Earth, as a shot to the police car tire sends half the officers tumbling away. The bus then enters a tunnel, and the second police car follows, while several others set up a blockade on the other side. One of the officers has a file on the criminals, who used to share a cell in prison a few years ago. The three robbed the bank earlier today, and are trying to escape until now. Fang and Bai arrive shortly after, as Lele and her abductor, Chen, are coincidentally on the same bus. Without even knowing this, Bolin chooses him as a hostage and shakes him through the bus's open door to force the police to give up the chase. The car behind obeys, but Lin takes advantage of the commotion to free himself and ends up fighting with Bolin until the gun fires, hitting the third robber. It is he who falls dead at the door, and right at that moment, everything begins to distort inside the bus, causing terrible headaches for everyone. Back in the present, Chen is driving at full speed towards the portal, while Lin is still trying to fend off the monsters. One of them manages to climb onto the vehicle and sticks its paw through the window, grabbing Lele's shoulder. Since she won't be able to run away because of the handcuffs, Bolin steps in front of her and is pulled out in her place. Lin tries to calm Lele and asks Chen to stop the bus, wanting to rescue Bolin. Lying in the sand, he begins to say that he is remembering who he is. Chen shouts at Lin, saying that if he stops now, everyone will be eaten by the monsters. Then, two more manage to enter through the window, and Lin tries to defend Lele with just a knife, as he is out of ammunition again, but the idea doesn't work very well. One of them knocks him to the ground and starts biting him on the shoulder. Lele tries to help by throwing a plastic bottle at the monster, and Lin has to hold its paw to prevent the tragedy. Then Lele manages to free her hand from the handcuffs and goes to the front of the bus while Lin continues to fight. He manages to eliminate one of the two monsters, but this ends up costing him his life, and now there is nothing between the other beast and the girl. Chen is watching all this in the rearview mirror and waits until the last moment to let go of the wheel, grabbing the monster and jumping out the window with it. Lele is alone when a noise makes her head ache, and everything distorts around her as the bus finally begins to cross the portal. On Earth, only a few minutes have passed, and the police are still waiting at the mouth of the tunnel. When the bus emerges from the darkness, they warn the criminals that they must exit with their hands up and without sudden movements, but the only person who gets off is Lele. Bai runs to hug her and goes into a panic upon seeing that the girl doesn't recognize her. The policemen enter the bus and soon ask for someone to come to help Lin, who is still alive.